All right, welcome back to another Stoolie debate on Hard Factor Radio here on Barstool Radio, Sirius XM Power 85. The contestants today, we've got a returning debate champion in Intern Patricia. Patricia, thanks for coming back. And then we've her challenger today is Sydney. Sydney, thanks for coming on. Had you heard the other debates? Are you familiar with what we're about to do?
Yep, I've been listening.
Nice. Okay. You studied your competition. So this is technically still the first round. This is the last first-round matchup on the Stoolie side. Patricia had to play her way in. This is her second debate, but it's still the first round, right, Will?
Yeah. Correct. So we're still on this is the last leg of the Stoolie side of the bracket, and then we have PFT and somebody else finishing up the Barstool HQ side of the bracket on Thursday, and then eventually, you guys will all compete for a chance to win the championship at the end. So
PFT is going to have a tough time. I'm going to judge him pretty hard.
Oh yeah, big time. Sydney, what should we know about you going into this debate? Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to know. I'm in school right now. I'm studying environment and sustainability. I'm on a program to get my master's in environmental management in a few years. And I'm just working and going to school pretty much.
Would you say that you're a killer on the debate floor?
I don't know. It's been a couple of years, but in high school, I was the captain of my debate team.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Oh shit.
But it has been a couple of years, so I don't want to hype everybody up just to disappoint, especially
What's your
myself.
What's your current level of aggression right now?
Well, I don't know. Current level of aggression, probably like a 3 or 4.
There's some tie-dye behind you in the Zoom call.
You probably want to stay chill. You probably want to stay chill during.
Are either of you caffeinated, Patricia or Sydney? Over caffeinated?
I'm drinking wine in a coffee cup.
All right,
I just finished a couple beers. So.
Perfect. All right, level playing field.
Juice.
Loosened up.
Patricia, for those of you who haven't, or those of the listeners who haven't heard the last debate, what do we need to know about you, Patricia?
In the last debate, what did I say? Like, capitalism is like the pinnacle of goodness. I said something weird like that, and I feel like that's like a good summary of what's going on in my head at all times.
Very pro-capitalism.
Free market or die is like who I am.
So instead of love something wine, that's what you would have on your wall?
Free market or die.
Free market or die. Okay.
Free market or die while you drink wine.
Live, love wine.
That's an interesting thing. If you bring anyone home, they're going to be either very intrigued or they're going to be very concerned.
Yeah, they're just worried.
They might break out their wallets, and then in which case you're going to have to clear it up. You're like, no,
you got to shoot your shot, though, Patricia.
That's not what I mean with the free market or die. All right. So we also have Colorado versus Iowa. That's the geographical battle going on tonight. Sydney is in Colorado, Patricia in Iowa. Like we said earlier, the bracket leads to the championship at the end. You guys know the first 2 categories, and it's going to be – well, we'll get to that in a second. But then there's going to be a third mystery category. The first 2 categories, you get 2 minutes each to present your opening arguments. And during those 2 minutes, moderators or the other debater can, politely interrupt, and you get your time to finish after that. And then following that in the first 2 rounds, you get your 1-minute closing argument each after the first 2 minutes each. And then the final mystery question, which you don't know yet, you haven't had a chance to prepare for, you will get 1 minute each to just give your best shot on that. So we will be going with Patricia first. Patricia's a returning. She had her play in, so she will get to go first in round number 1. And the first round is about polyamory. So there's a town in Massachusetts recently that changed it to where polyamory can now constitute a domestic partnership. So
can you explain to the judges what polyamory means, Will?
Yeah, sounds cool. Is it cool?
Relationships. Yeah, sure. Yeah, like polygamy could be.
It's like polygamy. Okay.
Right. But it could be also more than that. It could be just like, a whole set of people who are in some sort of domestic partnership together.
It could be a many to many. It doesn't have to be a many to one.
Is it does polyamory have to be like one directional, like one planet with multiple moons orbiting it, or is it all the
many to
moons
many
orbiting each other at the same time?
Yeah.
Is there a king? Is there a king or queen in the relationship?
No,
that's what I'm curious about.
Doesn't have to be. Yeah. Okay.
Specified as several equals in the relationship.
Sounds a little bit communist to me, but that's okay. Sounds a little bit anti-capitalist. Okay.
Well, I mean, they're letting in more than 2, so you need to get in on the ground floor.
Says
of
the guy that's
relationships.
life goal is to own a compound with his best friends. All right.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
hey,
you would benefit from this rule, Pat.
that's why I'm very interested. I mean, I think this is a great thing to potentially add into my compound plan.
Pat and I need to shut up.
Yeah, so you would have to lobby your local government because right now, this one town in Massachusetts is the only place where that is a possibility. Patricia, what we want to know, the question is this a good thing or a bad thing, this first town, this first domino falling? Should polyamory be considered a domestic partnership or not?
No, I don't think polyamory should be considered a domestic partnership because it's a step closer to marriage. And I think gay marriage is like awesome and great. I think traditional marriage is awesome and great because the purpose of having these unions is to, one, incentivize good and stable behavior. So like 2 people and a stable financial unit, the purpose of that is so the government can tax them and so we can keep track of like how stable people are in societies, how households are functioning, and all of those things. Like basically the foundational block for any society is the family unit. So I think like I've been in an open relationship before, and like I think it's not like the worst thing ever. I don't think there's anything wrong with people like choosing to live like that. And I think that it's fine, but I don't think it's something that needs to be legislated by a city, or if anything, a city has no business really engaging in this type of regulation. It should either be the federal or state government or nothing, because now these people will behave in a certain way in their town, like when it comes to filling out paperwork, like not even considering like the relationship, just the paperwork. And then they're going to have to do something completely different when it comes to like filing for divorce or separating when they go to the state. What if there's like multiple children involved? It's going to create this very unequal
more paperwork
situation. Yeah, and especially
I don't know how to move, right?
Yeah, it's am I out of time or am I dead?
You have 15 seconds.
Okay, like for example, say it's a man, a woman, they have a child together, and there's another man in the relationship, and they're all equal in the relationship. They've been in this child's life since the child was 5. The town might recognize that all 3 of these people are parents, but if they go to get divorced, like in the state, that second father won't have any claim to that child. So like they can cut this person out. And
my 2 dads argument. Okay.
A quagmire there. All right, Sydney, were you listening? You got a response? Your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, so I totally have to agree with the legal issues that you brought up, especially with like any questions of like divorce or taxes. But I think it's also important to recognize the fact that a domestic partnership, like by definition, does not necessitate the idea of marriage. And it just, especially like in the town in Massachusetts that just did recognize that domestic partnership is now a constitutional thing, at least for them. The big thing that they were looking at is hospital visitation rights. And then the other thing I feel like is important to recognize, especially in like these big groups of people that want to, live together and live in these big relationships, and God forbid any falling out, or God forbid any passing away or anything, a lot of times survivorship goes through with these domestic partnerships. And again, you brought up the tax issue. A domestic partnership, again, does not necessitate a claim in taxes because it's not technically a marriage. And that's the federal government definition of that. But another cool study that I found was a lot of times in these domestic partnerships that are legally recognized, there's a lot more psychological stress and like a lot less psychological distress and a lot less psychological issues when it comes to the issue, like the people in the groups, especially when, and the study was done because, there's not a lot to look for in like polyamory so far, but these were studies on LGBTQ plus relationships. And when they were done domestic partnerships and recognized that way, not necessarily even in marriages, they were more successful. So I feel like this is a really good big step in the right direction.
Not a lot of suicide in the Wanderlust department.
Nope, that was, people want to kill themselves less, which is always a good thing.
Yeah,
going on,
unless they're terrible. No one's brought up
unless they're the one always in the corner. Yeah.
No one's brought up the really interesting part about this, which is the group sex.
There's not necessarily
a plus. It's a plus.
Hey guys, the judges are talking right now. Okay, the judges are talking. You'll have your minute.
To bring that up for sure. Maybe a little later, but
I'm just sitting here thinking, what the hell are they talking about? They're leaving the best part out. It's like,
Well, they each have a
I
minute.
got it noted on my notes here for sure.
they're just eating the sides and the steak is right there.
I wrote not a lot of suicides because of group sex on my notes, so I was thinking that.
Funny enough,
Okay.
we all made the same note.
Okay.
Patricia, closing argument. 1 minute starts now.
I think Sydney and I both agree that what like a group of people do in the privacy of their own home, whether it be like shared or separate, is not really any of our business. I do think though that part of recognizing those partnerships, that's a step towards marriage. Like gay people, like where in some states, like they could be recognized as having like a domestic partnership. And that was like that was even considered as an alternative to like letting them use the full word of or recognizing them using the word of marriage. So I think that I don't think polyamorous relationships, I think it's such a small portion of the population that does engage in these relationships that we shouldn't legislate it for everybody, because it's going to create so many more like legal complications and trying to certify that these people are in fact in a relationship of 6 people instead of just all getting together so they can get like a small tax write-off or compound their property or things like that. Like I know people.
Time.
Okay, go ahead.
Time. Sorry. Not enough.
Good points.
Not enough population for the quagmire, for the paperwork quagmire. Okay. Sydney, 1 minute. Closing argument starts now.
Okay. Again, I think Patricia and I both agree on the part that she opened with, but I think, okay, I have to disagree with the fact that she, the whole marriage argument. I don't think it's fair to limit these groups of people to the idea of a domestic partnership just on the idea that they're going to get married because it's a step in the right direction, because that's not a guarantee in every situation. And it's not fair to throw that umbrella, situation over every single group of people, because everything is different. And I feel like I should have said it earlier, but I'm an ex-Mormon. So, the whole like group relationships, polygamy, polyamory, I got to go back to my roots and say like, fuck yeah, why the fuck not?
Okay.
That's all I got.
Sister
That's all I got.
There you go.
Sister wives, brother husbands, whatever you got to do.
How many dads did you have?
Oh, I just had a bunch of moms, but my biological mom was like the queen mom, like I'm kidding. It's a joke.
Can we start calling these smile clubs instead of polyamorous or whatever?
Smile clubs.
Smile clubs, yeah.
The orgy argument is strong, I gotta say.
Yeah.
No one. Okay. All right. Yep.
All right.
We'll get into it. We're judging at the end.
Judges and no questions. Let's ask some questions before we move on, just to make sure we got it all out on the table here. Pat, did you need to revisit?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I got my notes down. I got my notes here. I'll bring it up at the end. I'll bring it up in the judging round.
Okay, fine. All right, let's move it on. Mark, you good?
I'm good.
All right, we're going to move it on to round 2, where Sydney will go first. In round 2, the topic is going to be right up your alley and what you're studying right now, environmental regulations. So let me pull up the exact wording so I don't fuck it up.
It's a sexier topic in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, it's a topic of great importance. Climate change. People are worried about sea levels rising and whatnot. And so the question is, should the government regulate industry to force the adoption of renewable energy and other green technologies at a faster rate instead of just letting the market do whatever it wants? Sydney, you go first. 2 minutes.
Okay, 100% yes, 110% yes. Again, because everybody is completely, at this point, I feel like everybody's aware of the issues like at hand and how much of a pressing issue this is, and it's starting to come off the back burner finally that like this is a here and now problem. The 2 biggest things that I wanted to bring up though, there are dozens, there's a handful of countries that are way, way, way ahead of us as far as implementing green energy, especially into industry. For example, Iceland, Sweden, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, the UK, Germany, and that's just a small group to start with, are way ahead of us already. And we're just now like talking about, theoretically hopping onto this train. And then the other stat that I think is
Nords,
No, fuck that. One of the biggest things that I feel like is important to recognize is that in 2016, 4 years ago, it was already proven that renewable electricity is cheaper per unit than oil. And this has been like, information that has been, up and ready for the last 4 years, and nobody's given enough of a shit to start actually, start to make change. And then the last thing I want to bring up is the social contract theory. So again, if we're going by like ethics of this entire thing, based on the social contract theory, 100%, it is a governing body's like obligation first and foremost to the people to do this. And this is one of the most important things for our future. And one of the big arguments against it is, the economy. And this is, it's not cost efficient. The economy will recover. Money can recover. And like that kind of thing, like it will come back from that. The environment and the world that we live in today will not. The roads that we're going down right now, we're not going to be able to come back from that. And we are already seeing irreversible damage. So 100% yes, we need to start pushing this.
All right, I got a question for Sydney before we go to Patricia. Do you think that these renewable energy like buildings will sell beer and cigarettes inside them?
Oh God, I hope so.
Okay, because right now all right. Okay.
We're clarifying beer and cigarettes.
Because right now they're the nerds of buildings.
Right. Well, I'm saying like whatever we come up with, is it going to be like you can fill up your electric car, whatever the fuck here, but you can also walk 5 feet inside and buy beer and cigarettes. That's all I'm asking.
Well, you can't smoke them anywhere.
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
In a perfect world, yes.
All right.
Depends on the state as far as if you'll be able to smoke next to the facility, I think. Patricia, your response, 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I think it's been painfully obvious, like looking at almost every industry, how bad the government is at making decisions for the economy in general. Like if we look at just like nuclear power right now, like nuclear power is the future. Like everybody's pretty much agreed on that. But the reason that nuclear power isn't being used more widely than it is, like right now it's basically still an emerging industry because it's not used to supplement electrical grids in almost any city, because the government regulated it so much, like between like 1930 and 1960, and then starting again because they were so scared of radiation after Chernobyl and after like these few like niche disasters that didn't reflect all nuclear energy, because the government is just not very good at making decisions. Like the government when they knew that we could potentially have electric cars, instead of doing things that would make it so it would, like, we could perhaps fund the Highway Trust Fund, which is how we the Highway Trust Fund is funded by taxes on gasoline. So electric cars don't pay into this fund that keeps the roads up. The government had all of this knowledge like 25 years ago that this is what the landscape was going to be like today. And instead of trying to figure out a system to fund this one fund that kept our roads up, they just decided not to. And now we're trying to deal with that right now. Like the government is just like 20 to 30 years behind everything they should be doing, and they've only ever made bad decisions. And who has made meaningful like progress when it comes to renewable energy? It's private businesses who see that money can be made when there's a massive like tech advancement. Like nuclear companies, Elon Musk, they've all made tons of bank off of running with what they think is a good idea, but the government wasn't ready to buy into yet. So I think it's a no-brainer that the more we let the government meddle with something, the more they're going to mess it up, because that's pretty much what they've always done.
Interesting. All right.
I'd like to ask Patricia a question. Are you sure you don't want to have instead of free market or death, that Chernobyl was not a big deal behind you?
Chernobyl was massively overblown, but I don't think I can get into that right now. Not as many people died as we thought, and like there were literally about 150 like thousand abortions that happened because pregnant mothers were like taught to be afraid of their like fetuses potentially being exposed to radiation, like all around the world.
So you're saying that was all extra?
Yeah, they could have been like sick mutant babies, and
but they weren't. And like children, the people that were harmed the most from Chernobyl were like people that got throat cancer, but they were all children, and it was like treatable. So the Chernobyl was like bad for the people that were like right there and directly exposed, but it wasn't as bad as we thought it was.
Wow.
And like
first
Chernobyl, I mean, the reason Chernobyl
HBO fucked that one up.
Time. Yeah. We got time. We're getting off the tracks here, guys.
Sorry. So Soviet Russia, and like Russia was just bad at managing things. So that wasn't like a nuclear problem. That was just like communism run amok.
I know America, 3 Mile Island. Okay.
But that's only in Russia. This is America, and we're talking about environmental regulations here. Sydney, your closing argument, 1 minute.
Okay, I cannot argue with what Patricia had to say that the government likes to fuck things up 100%. But the question that has been asked is, should the government? And there's been no specifics given as to how it would be done and whatever. So technically speaking, we are looking at the moral and ethical obligation that a governing body owes its people. And again, based off of like John Locke's and, you know, like every philosopher, you know, like it's just what the governing body and what the government owes the people, morally and ethically speaking, they do. And then something that I didn't get to bring up, and again, morally, ethically, these you know, implementations and regulations are, you know, promising to not create like only wow, that was not a sentence, but like it's jobs. 16 to 18 million jobs have been promised in these, you know, new green deals that we're looking at. And again, should the government be looking out for the people the way that, you know, what we're talking about is? Yeah. Ideally and realistically, is it gonna? No. Yeah. You know.
It's a time.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Nice closing argument.
Round two of the books. I asked my questions. I've asked my questions already for round two. Pat, do you have any?
No, not just now. Not just now. Not for round two.
Patricia has a closing argument.
Oh,
excuse me. Sorry, she kind of got it in. She kind of got.
You guys, kind of.
The Chernobyl thing threw me off. That was my fault.
A lot of Chernobyl time.
Yeah.
I do want to say, 3 Mile Island.
That was my fault. We didn't stop you, so she gets her minute.
You are a moderator. I try to do my best here as the host, but I mean, I can only control you so much. So, I've got to say though, while we're taking a pause in the middle of this round, the female debaters. Really, who's in the hot seat are the male debaters, I got to say. All right, Patricia, closing argument, 1 minute.
Yeah, so I think that we should make a pragmatic decision when it comes to looking at like our economy and what works for environmental regulation and what isn't a pragmatic like decision. Like it wouldn't be letting the government, like letting a group of elected people who don't exactly know what they're talking about. It would be better to let industries trust scientists and value scientists. Like the scientist that's the smartest is the one that's going to make the most money for coming up with the best idea. Like that's what the free market produces. And if we get like cumbersome bad government regulation out of science, then these people can innovate even more. And like I would be so fine with creating a couple like maybe incentive programs or like special grants for like funding like discoveries and stuff, but like having the government mandate what business should do is going to cost jobs in the short term and like might not lead to as many jobs in the long term because they'll make decisions that aren't very good.
All right, time. Good arguments. You guys, judges, do you have any questions?
No, I think I want to hear round 3. I want to hear the mystery round. I'm really excited about it personally.
All right,
agreed.
Finally, the unveiling of the mystery round, and this is inspired by Kanye West this week. You know, he, if you hadn't heard, he definitely very seriously announced his candidacy for the president of the United States this year, 2020, even though the election's just around the corner, and he just announced it. So since that's such a serious push from Kanye to become the next president, I want to know, would it be Kanye, or if it had to be any musician, you have to support a musician to be president. Who is that going to be? Patricia, you're up first.
Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton. Everybody in America loves Dolly Parton. She runs Dolly World like a champ. She's brilliant. Everybody loves her. Dolly's Coat of Many Colors. Awesome movie. She's really the American dream. She's like beautiful, which I know is superficial, but it really does matter when you're like looking up to your leader. You want them to be just like what America should be like. She gives like tons of people opportunities. She's produced tons of stuff. She's a great voice for women. She's in like a great healthy relationship, which is just also important to have a good first man. Best friends with Willie Nelson. Like, who doesn't love Dolly Parton? Republicans and Democrats like her. And she did a radio interview once, and the radio interviewer said, like, what's your idea of a perfect day? And she said, oh, me and my husband like to get in our camper sometimes. We go through Arby's and get a sandwich. That's like my most vivid Dolly memory.
Arby's.
So, Dolly Parton.
That was, by the way, I don't know if you guys heard that, but there was a shot taken at polyamorous relationships in that final answer.
Okay.
Oh, a little double shot.
Look at JFK. Like, I bet the Cold War wouldn't have happened if JFK was loyal to Jackie.
Wow. Whoa. Mark's really extending Patricia's arguments.
Jolene, by the way.
2 rounds in a row.
Don't take her man, Jolene.
No, she could be the roast beef president.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dolly Parton is a strong answer. Dolly Parton is a strong answer. Sydney, who you got?
I'm going to have to go with Will Smith. Who in America doesn't love Will Smith? You think about it and it's like, I don't know. He's just such a likable guy all around. I feel like he could get up and say anything and everybody would start cheering. So it really, he's like a win-win guy. He's a well-rounded man. He's a family man. Both of his children are, successful. His wife, amazing. I don't have a lot to say. I feel like that's
a name on that guy.
That's exactly
a bit of a homer pick. A bit of a homer pick there, Sydney, trying to win over. Will's not judging today. Our Will Smith is not judging today.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Oh, is he judging me? I thought you were just moderating.
Yeah.
Okay. Even more so, dirty pool. Some dirty pool choosing Will Smith.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
Our moderator's name is also Will Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Solid pick. He's a great rapper.
This is going to be tough. This is going to be tough to judge.
Wow.
Well done. Well done by both.
All right. Jazzy Jeff. Solid pick. All right. Let's see. Who wants to recap round one, judges? Which one of you two wants to do that for us?
I can recap. First. Oh, yeah. Go for it, Mark.
All right. Okay. So we talked about polyamorous relationships being a domestic partnership in a small town. They just made this a thing. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Patricia went first and said, no, it's not a good idea. Sydney went second and said, yes, it's fine. The main points I like are the paperwork and the messiness of if it doesn't work out and them like moving from town to town from Patricia, kind of like a whose kid is it scenario. There's a lot of paperwork and testing going on there. Sydney said, basically, it doesn't equal marriage, so there's no tax things, which was good because I was like really going on Patricia's side till I heard that. And then there's not a lot of suicides, which I like. So they're happier. So it's tough one, but I'm gonna go with Patricia because it's just weird. It's just weird.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Patricia. All right, Pat. Who did you have in that one?
So I like to lean into the weird. I'm a real weird guy. I like the idea of real freaky weird sex.
Compound Pat is what we call him.
Big compound guy. Not there yet financially, but it's
working on it every day.
I talked to a financial planner, and he said, "What do you want to do in the next 20 years?" And I just one word: compound. So I don't know. I got to take points away from Patricia because she has never seen the show My Two Dads, and two dads are better than one dad. And Patricia was saying something like it could get weird with like, death or like custody with two dads, not knowing which dad to go to. But let's be honest.
Three men and a little lady.
Yeah, well, and that one's good too. That's an extra dad. So I think Patricia's selling multiple dads short. So I'm going to have to give it to Sydney on this one.
1-1.
Ooh, all right. Well, it comes down to me deciding this round. It's going to Patricia. The reason why is because she doubled down. So she goes, it's a slippery slope in the first time. And then there was a lot of things. I mean, Sydney had a lot of good points about the orgies and whatnot. But then when it came back to Patricia's closing arguments, slippery slope again, doubled down on me. And then I underlined slippery slope, and then also a lot of paperwork. And I'm not a fan of paperwork. So
yeah, it's just too much paperwork.
Yeah, I think I do. That is a good point. When you think about like 12 people all getting a divorce, it's like it's in 12-plicate, whatever. The
regular divorce
version
already sucks.
Yeah. But Sydney, sorry, I went Sydney on that one. What are you gonna do?
Well, so Patricia takes the round, but that was close. Very, very, very close in the first round. All right, Pat, take us through round number 2.
We talked about whether governments should be allowed or forced to regulate environmental reform in companies. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I think Patricia she was talking about the Trust Fund Act, something how gasoline was funding it. I don't like trust funds. Never had one. Not going to get one. If I had one, I'd have my compound already. At the same point, Sydney talked about the ethical obligation of a government for their country. I like that a lot. But then again, Patricia pronounced the word nuclear correctly, which I very much enjoyed. That was a thrill for me. But then Sydney referenced the character from Lost, John Locke. I don't know why. But I one of my favorite shows, and for that reason and that reason only, I'm going to have to give this round to Sydney. I'm sorry.
Ooh, Big Texas is not going to like this because the two guys on the show from Texas going against gas. I'm going to give it to Sydney too, and she's going to win the round. Here's the thing. I think everyone was right in this argument. I think that Patricia's 100% correct that the free market and the private companies are going to make more progress and do a better job. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be an obligation for the federal government to push for some renewable energy. Like there's NASA, and then there's also Elon Musk's company. You know, that NASA's the government. I think that it's foolish to not start making the progress towards renewable energy, and it's the should, not how. So I'm giving it to Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say Elon Musk's only talent is like stealing money from the government to find whatever kooky thing's going on in his brain.
Many more talents than
exactly.
that.
I hate
Banging
Elon.
grinds.
I also hate Elon Musk. But if the government forces this issue, then people like Elon Musk can progress the issue quicker.
Procreating. He's got lots of stuff. Did you see that night? He had a threesome
He's
with Amber
definitely
Heard
good
and
at procreating. He's
Carla, what's
he's
her
got
name?
like 30 kids. Yeah.
He's got,
He's-
7.
he's a
Please
North
tell
Star
sex
for nerds
polyamory.
everywhere in terms of how to have sex with people. He's just a real hero, if you ask me.
All right.
Disagree.
So Sydney takes the round. It was very close, very close. Patricia had an amazing point with how government is bad at everything.
Fucks everything up. Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to beat. But then Sydney doubled down on the moral issue, ethical thing, and then again the double down got me. I underlined
It's huge
it.
for Will.
Yeah, the double down
Yeah.
really,
You always double down on 11.
brings it
Yeah.
back
Or
to me.
10 if the dealer's showing like 6 or under. Yeah.
Well, there's debates on that. Maybe for next week.
Yeah.
But
Win the
Will,
job thing.
Sydney also said that the renewable places would sell beer.
Also, that we can't get beat by the Nords. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
an interesting thing.
Yeah.
You make it competition based. That can get people going too. But,
Yeah.
I mean,
Greta Thunberg keeps coming over here and making us look bad. Let's leave her over there.
But
and then
Patricia's point stands.
Yeah.
Very, very
Yeah.
excellent point. Governments suck at everything, basically.
Mhm.
So, all right, moving on to the final round. And this was the mystery round. This is the round where, inspired by Kanye West's run for president in 2020, you have to pick one alive musician. I should have clarified alive, but you both were smart enough to pick an alive musician. And Patricia went with Dolly Parton, which is one of Willie Nelson's best friends. Loves marriage. Did the movie 9 to 5, an American classic. She loves to eat Arby's. But then Sydney picked Will Smith, who's also an excellent musician and shares my same name. And if you've watched any of these or listened to any of these debates before, you know that I can be easily bought in the last round. Sydney gets the round. Picking my name.
All right, I'll go next to put this on Pat. I'll give it to Patricia. I listened to a bunch of Dolly Parton songs on the way to Texas Hill Country this weekend with my wife, including Jolene, which is why I knew that don't steal her man, even though you can, Jolene. Islands in the Stream, big time Islands in the Stream guy. So yeah, Dolly Parton, we'll go with it. Patricia, 1-1. Pat's got to solve this conundrum.
All right, this is super hard for me. Here's why. Patricia came out the gate saying that Dolly Parton ran Dollywood, very well. And truth be told, she does not run it very well, and she's not there because I went there recently and I asked around, where's Dolly?
She's trying to buy the Appalachian stuff too, which like isn't good. I was hoping no one would know that.
Excuse me.
Patricia.
I'm judging you right now. Dollywood is a hellhole, and Dolly's not there. But at the same point, Dolly is America's queen. Everyone does love her. Now, Sydney came in with Will Smith, said he's likable. I agree. Said both children. Will Smith's actually got 3 children. Will Smith's also kind of freaky weird. I don't know if you guys have ever picked up on that. Something off about him. I'm a freaky guy, but at the same point, Dolly is Miley Cyrus's godmother, and that's if she could manage
she's
that.
Also weird.
But if she could manage that mess, I think she could manage our country. Unfortunately, Sydney, there's no amount of arguing that could beat Dolly Parton in anything. I got to give it to Patricia, unfortunately.
Wow, Patricia.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Also, I will note that I
Behind
picked
Will.
Will
Wow.
Smith yesterday on the show.
Yeah. So there was a lot. I mean, Sydney, that was a valiant effort in the third.
It was very,
round.
yeah, it was close.
That was the
Patricia's
close-
tough.
That was
She's
the
very
closest
tough.
debate. That was the closest debate so far.
And like
by
I was
far.
saying
Yeah.
when we were taking our little unscheduled break earlier, I think the biggest lesson here is that the male contestants are definitely on notice. I would,
Yeah, Sydney would have done well against pretty much. She did well in this one, but she probably would have beaten anyone else.
Are you guys taking a wild card spot in the bracket?
We could, if someone like doesn't show up, Sydney should probably get the first entry.
Yeah, does
in.
anyone know Dolly? Can we try to
Yeah.
make that happen?
I would say if you were to rank wild cards, Sydney's the number one wild card right now as an alternate to come in, because and that includes, we could do that even on the Barstool sides when PFT just doesn't show up, type stuff.
Yeah, which is
Right.
inevitable.
Yeah.
Thursday. Could happen on Thursday. Sydney, be on
Okay.
call. Don't leave your phone far away. And that's
I'll be
gonna do
ready.
it. That's gonna do it for Hard Factor Radio today. Thank you for joining. Remember, find Hard Factor News on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. We have a separate morning commute podcast from this radio hour, and the Yak's up next. All right.
Nice.